Hello everyone. Welcome. Happy Friday. Hey Kat, glad to see you. Um it's interesting. I'm using Restream and it won't allow me to have the chat working. Well, so I actually have to have a separate window open with the chat with the video and the chat and everything. So it's kind of a pain. But so if I lose you at some point and I miss a question, I will come back. Anywho. Welcome. It is Friday. I am so excited it's Friday. It's been a week. I've actually been sick this week. It's just not been a good week. So we're gonna give people a couple minutes to come in and get settled. And while we're waiting, I want to talk about something I did last weekend. So actually on Sunday, I decided to undertake a book in a day. Now, one of the members of our community actually had done this the week before, maybe 2 weeks before. She sat and she wrote a book an entire day. And I was like, I can do this. Obviously, I didn't. I've got a really super good codex out of the whole thing. In a really nice Notion document for other people who wish to try to do a book in a day. And let me just say, I probably made myself sick. Hello, Master Tamari. So yeah, the experience of attempting to come up with, I did everything from coming up with the concept to, I had planned to even, write, edit, and publish same day. Yeah, it didn't happen. But yeah, I did end up with a really, really solid story. A little bit of a story world. I didn't go crazy. And I think it was 15 chapters outline. It's basically ready to go. So the whole codex is set up and everything. So I just have to start writing it. I can't wait. It's going to be a ton of fun. It's actually science fiction romance. So I love me some science fiction. Okay. Well, let's, again, while we're waiting for a couple people to show up, let's talk a little bit more about what we're doing here. So the original assignment, going back to week 1, was to write a novel inspired by the Dresden Files by Jim Butcher. So in typical Angie fashion, I decided to make it harder on myself. And we're actually planning a 3-book series. But I don't know that a 3-book series is going to be enough. I kind of feel like we need a prequel to the series, maybe a novella length prequel, because I don't know. I've spent a little bit more time in this story world. It is a lot. It's very expansive. I did spend some time today adding a little bit of stuff. I try not to add too much, but I did end up adding a bit. It is going to be massive, and it's going to be very detailed. I kind of wanted to take the story of Charlie waking up and, being a vampire and what that entails, and kind of put it in, hey Jen, put that in maybe a prequel. I don't know if it would take away from book 1, because I think book 1 should be her hitting the ground running, maybe on a her first case, maybe. But maybe, have that prequel of her, starting to deal with the transition, and a little bit more of like the personal stuff. Where is she living? Introduce Kingston and our Manticore, and the people she's gonna be working with. I don't know if we should do that in the first book or if we should do a prequel. I don't know. Let me know what you think, because I don't know if I'm making myself more work here or if it's actually a good idea. So give me your thoughts. With that aside, so we did some category research. I came up with a Novelcrafter prompt and a GPT before we got started. So we are trying to work within the categories of urban fantasy, vampire, paranormal suspense, also wolves and shifters, paranormal suspense, and private investigator mysteries. So those are the Amazon categories. We've got a 3-book series that we're going to be planning, unless we change it, as well as a romantic subplot. We've got a female protagonist, a morally ambiguous male lead. His name is Kingston Valentine. And we have personal stakes. So, and the tropes that we've included have been a reluctant hero, found family, grumpy sunshine, a ghost sidekick with attitude, and a cursed or gifted main character. So that's what we're working with. We've got Dead and Delivered is the name of the series. The first book we're tentatively calling Return to Sender, but again, that might change. Who knows? Kat says it's just do it in the first book. I can do that, and I don't know, maybe they'll make the first book better to have all of that in there. And then Jen says, I love how a prequel answers a lot of the questions that the first novel sets up. Yeah. I mean, I almost feel like it kind of like needs its own thing, but at the same token, maybe it will make book 1 even richer. So let's put a pin in that and come back to it later. But let's talk about what I did this week. And by what I did this week, I mean what I did today. So let me show you today. Okay. So let's go back to last week. So we had the synopsis, the pitch, the hook, and the premise. And then what we started doing was using this Urban Fantasy Worldbuilding Template. So you have the entire template right here in your document. I did pin, I think, I pinned the chat where it's at, as well as it's also in the description too. So if you need that Notion document URL. So I quite literally went step by step through this template, writing the synopsis, defining the protagonist, talked about the tone, and then layered upon layer of information about the story world. So this is what we did last week. And that is here in our Series Codex right here. So, and I will say that the, excuse me, the only thing in my codex at that point was the series of information. So the hook, the pitch, the premise, and the synopsis. And boop, boop, boop. I will try to remember to add that in case anyone is looking for the prompt that I use. I'll try to remember to put that into one of the documents. Okay, so I quite literally said, look at the pitch, hook, and premise, and let's go. So we made it pretty far. And I had actually already done a lot of this work ahead of time in a uh, ChatGPT discussion with my own personal Angie Hartwell persona GPT. So I had done a lot of the work ahead of time, and thank goodness, because if we would have had to gone through this piece at a one piece at a time, it would have taken forever. So the homework that I did, so I took everything that was in this document, because this document here, this chat, was not the exact same as what was in my original discussion. So I took all of this, I put it in a Word doc. I took everything from my original chat and I put it in a Word doc. And then I also took some additional information that I already had about the story and put that in a Word document. And I started having a conversation with the LLM. I actually used ChatGPT again, and basically went through all of the questions again. So, building upon the stuff that we had already talked about, just to make sure and nail everything down. Things that I added this time, because I really truly tried to not add anything. But when we got to things that had to do with vampire power, turning practices, and there was just a couple other little things that didn't really go with the way that I write or the way I thought of the world. And so I changed them. I did a little bit of things that there was a little bit of changing there. So we have a big problem though. Okay. So we get down to the end of this chat. We have to think about context and the context window here inside of chat. So we can only chat a couple more times. Let's see, how many are in here? There's 18 in here now. I have to remember. Does anyone remember the number of chats that are in the context window? I want to say it's like 26, which is 13 pairs. I should know this. And actually, there is a line that will show up and tell you that you have reached the end of your context. But to save your wallet and your sanity, actually inside of Novelcrafter, it will cut off the context at a certain point. I believe it's 26. Okay. It does get bigger from time to time, but okay. Yes, there will be a line. And like I said, I want to say I think it's 13 pairs. So you say something, it says something, and that's a pair. I want to say it's 26. And we're at 18. So we're building the codex for this entire world. We are going to blow through that number like super duper fast. So we have a context problem. So what are we going to do about this problem? So depending on what tools you're using. So I know I talk to people every day, all day about this kind of stuff. And I've got a lot of folks that are using ChatGPT. I've got a lot of folks that are using Claude. And then there's even more people who are just staying and using the Novelcrafter tool as it is. There is no wrong way to do this. So whether you're trying to save money, whether you're more familiar with one of the other tools, do whatever it is that lights you up, okay? The issue I have is I can't take a document, put it into Novelcrafter, and say, okay, we're going to work from this document, because that would solve the problem. That would solve the problem because I can do that in chat. I can do that in Claude, but I can't do that here. So I decided to get creative, and I came up with what is called a world report. So let me share with you our world building report. that I created after I went through all of the fantasy world building steps one more time. And this is the exact reason that I did it one more time, is because I wanted to be able to take all of this information, and ChatGPT loves to create reports. So here we go. So we've got information about the supernatural world overview. We have law and enforcement. Like I said, I went and did a super deep dive on vampires and the Vampire Society, and like people getting turned and what does that look like. So that's here in the Vampire Society. We have factions and faction dynamics, as well as we have some new factions that were just added today, including the big bads. We have magical functionality. So how does magic work? We have investigation mechanics. So if we're doing a investigation, which we are going to be doing an investigation in every single one of these books, what does that look like? So, and how does magic complicate investigations as well? And then some overview information about our protagonist, Charlie. So if you look at, oops, wrong thing. Let's go back here. If you look at today, so this is April 25th, and come down, you can actually click on this world building report, and it will give you a copy of the world building report so you can see what I did. There is also a smidge of an update to the synopsis, the pitch, and the premise. Just very slight tweak. I think honestly like 1 or 2 words in each, just to kind of take into consideration a little bit of the change with regard to how what Charlie represents in the Vampire Society. So at first it kind of wanted her to be like a, I don't know how to explain it, kind of like a rogue agent almost. Do you know if Novelcrafter is going to let us import codex entries? No, not yet. We are not there yet. Cat World Anvil, that would handle it. No AI there, I don't think yet. Okay. Sorry, I was just going back through the chat there. So anyways, so yeah, slight change, just kind of how the Vampire Corporation sees Charlie, and guess what? She's a threat. Okay, so what I did, since we now have this report, and it's about 2,500 words, I want to say, I actually made it a codex entry so that at will I can reintroduce all of the information into the chat as I need it. So if I scroll all the way down, yeah, it's okay, 2,300 words. Here we go. So we'll go into chat and we will start creating codex entries. That is what the plan is for today. Let me go ahead and change my prompt. I'm going to go to dev editor, urban fantasy mystery. One thing I do want to check, I want to look at what is the difference between a GPT versus Claude with regard to creating these entries. So that is one thing that we are going to do. I want mini, but I don't think I have it on here. So let me go in and add that. Okay. Let me take Toppy off of here since it's no longer a thing. And I want to add Okay. About 4.1 mini? No. 4.0 mini. There we go. And I'm just going to leave. Actually, you know what? That was dumb, Ange. I'm just going to grab it from. I don't know why I don't do this. Here we go. I'm just going to grab it from here. And all I did was hit the little copy to clipboard because it'll take all the same settings that are in the general purpose and put it into my prompt. Here we go. And then I'll just move it up. There we go. I always forget about that. Okay. Who am I and what was I doing? Oh, I was creating a chat. And I have a lot of prompts. There we go. So we'll start with 4.0 mini. And I wrote out the prompt ahead of time just to save us a little bit of time. So take a look at the world report. I will need your help to create book Bible entries for various parts of the story for Dead and Delivered. Let's begin with the protagonist, Charlie Craig. Create a book Bible entry for Charlie that will allow an AI writing assistant to help me write the prose. Okay. And because I wrote world report, it's actually going to pull in the world report that I wrote. So let's go ahead and send this and see how it came out. Okay. So this is giving me full name, age, and species, background and origin. So something new that you don't know about yet. And I actually got an email from one of our viewers, and she had some really good ideas. And so the sire of Charlie is actually a high-level vampire enforcer or an investigator. I haven't decided yet. Whose disappearance is tied to the larger conspiracy involving the ley line siphoning. And the other thing that they had recommended was that the case that caused her to be on leave is actually related to the supernatural. So, and I had originally planned on adding in some sort of supernatural skin trade, like, people selling other supernaturals. And so, the idea tied it in with something that I was already considering. So we're going to add that too. Who am I and what am I doing? Yeah, I ask myself that question quite often, Kat. Okay, so we've got the background and the origin, former career. So abilities. So vampire strengths, psychic gifts, and ley line sensitivity. Then we got our emotional core. So primary stakes, internal conflicts, character traits, strengths, weaknesses, character arc potential. So let's see. Must solve cursed cases in the dead letter office while uncovering clues linked to her investigations back to ley line siphoning. Yes. Carmina Syndicate. They are new to you. They are the bad guys, as far as I know right now. And currently, she has been trying to piece the mystery surrounding her sire. Not quite what it's about, but yeah, a little bit. This will have to be edited. This is not quite right. So over the course of the series, she's going to evolve from an expendable asset to a formidable player in supernatural politics. Her journey involves unraveling the true history of ley lines and supernatural balance, ultimately leading her to challenge the hidden powers that govern her world. Eventually, yes. I think we have a long ways to go for that. But there also here with the character art potential, we also need to add in here something about the fact that uh, she's just become a vampire. Like, where do you go from that? Thinking about her family. She's going to have to probably walk away from her family. So they're not going to understand. They're not going to be able to be told because of our veil of secrecy. So basically, she's dead, as far as they're aware. Anyway, so this was 4.0 mini. I actually got better results from 4.0, to tell you the truth, than I did from this 4.0 mini. But let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and grab this whole thing here. And we will try it with Claude 3.7. I mean, I could have done it in the same chat, but it would have mixed up the results, and I don't really want to do that. Dev editor. I always have to remember where I'm going. There we go. Okay. Again, I wrote world report, so it's going to go ahead and pull that information in. And let's see what Claude has to say. This is definitely much more information already. Oh boy. This is even more than I got out of GPT. So we've got the full name, age, species, and her current occupation. So yes, she is with the Dead Letter Office. So we've got a physical appearance, voice and speech patterns, personality traits, contradictions. I like this. So, I mean, it's even giving you kind of like the conflicts within her own personality. We got the vampire psychic abilities. So her vampiric powers, her psychic abilities. Okay, good with that. Background and motivation. So from her former life and her transformation trauma. There we go. I like this. So turned without consent during an investigation that crossed into supernatural territory. This isn't quite right. So she's on leave. But the LLM is working with the information that it has. So it's possible that when I created the report, we lost some data, some information. Like there's nothing in there about Kingston. There's nothing in there about our Manticore. There's nothing in there about our ghost. So like all of that stuff will have to be added back in. But that just gives us an opportunity to continue to make the story ours. So it's not just what the LLM coughed up. You know what I mean? So look up to a corporate orientation that treated her life-altering trauma as an HR issue. Yes, 100% right there. That is a 100%. I'm trying to make sure it doesn't go too much into the satire, but that my Angie Hartwell persona, my brand and whatnot has a bit of that corporate hilarity and a little bit of corporate satire, though I'm trying to back it off a little bit. Gumbo definitely, Claude does make up stuff sometimes, and quite often it will give you stuff you don't want. I know when I was in ChatGPT earlier, it was trying to do some things that I didn't like either. And I quite literally had to type in there and say, do not add stuff. I don't want additional stuff to make things more complicated. I want to keep it simple. And at the end, it was like, it was telling me something along the lines of, and I didn't make anything up. I was like, okay. Gumbo, how do you fix it when Claude goes off the rails changing names? I typically will remind it the correct information if it does go off the rails. Now, 3.7, I've noticed, isn't quite as bad as 3.5 was. Another thing you need to do and avoid is using pronouns. So he, she, they. You'll want to make sure, and it sounds dumb when you're writing it. You'll be like, Charlie walked to the refrigerator. Charlie opened the refrigerator. But that's a good way of making sure that you don't end up going off the rails and adding some character that was never there. You're using 3.5, try 3.7. Okay. So she lost her career, she lost her apartment, and her human connections overnight. 100%. Like, if this were to happen to you, like, what is going to be your response to this? It's not going to be just, oh, now I'm a vampire. Let me go take over the world. No, you're going to be traumatized. Hello, Honeybun Empress. Nice to see you. So forced into the DLO to keep her off the grid while technically employed. So one of the things that I came up with today was that, and I think we talked about it a little bit last week as well. So when someone is transformed into a vampire, I also added the stipulation, it has to be a human or a parahuman. That I added that the supernaturals cannot be turned into vampires. But there is a list to be turned into a vampire. And if you will remember from last week, our vampires are set up like a corporation. So it's very much power and prestige based, very much satirical. But yeah, I went through the process. Okay, so what does it look like? How do you become a vampire? So you're on this list, you get changed by someone, and depending on who changes you into a vampire, that's going to be your starting power level. Like, power level can go up just a smidge through a number of different things, and you'll see that in the world building document. But as you build power, they want to keep you under their thumb. So they're going to have someone who isn't very high powered basically turn you into a vampire. Like, so they can continue to have control. The people at the top can continue to subjugate the people at the bottom. And I made up what was called cubicle vampires. Don't ask me. I truly don't know. But so she was transformed by someone outside of the normal way that vampires are made. And so that's going to put pressure on the organization. They don't want people looking into what they're doing because ... they are doing things that they're not supposed to. How much of your human persona transfers to vampire? That's actually a really good question. I didn't write it that you become like a completely different person. Like, I would think that a newborn vampire would be very much like their old self. You know what I mean? So, the only thing different now is that you get your weekly blood box subscription, and you drink blood now, and you live in this corporate apartment assigned to you by the Vampire Corporation, and you go to work at the Vampire Corporation, and you hang out with the vampires, in by the water cooler, and they're pretty much just trying to turn you into like a mindless drone or something like that. Okay. So I feel like I've gone way off track. I definitely know you guys want to get some more entries done. So we're going to continue here with 3.5 Sonnet. So also the motivations. So we've got relationships, um, personal relationships as well. So we'll actually have to add those in as we add our other characters back into this codex. It also gave me the voice examples, which I don't necessarily need for this. I will need them down the line when I am creating the prose style guide. So we'll definitely hold on to that information. And then we also have here a character arc. So the starting point, growth potential, and internal conflicts. Okay, Gumbo says, how about a community of vampires, werewolves, and golems, and the real success story being Van Helsing's success was a fumbling old rabbi? I don't quite get that. We'll come back. Okay. So now we've got, we'll have to make a couple tweaks to this, but we should be able to just come down here and we should, fingers crossed. No, it's not going to let us do it. I was going to say, we could just turn this into a codex entry, but we can't. There are too many headings in it. So I'm actually going to have to probably put it into Notion, make my edits, and then drop it into the codex. So this would actually go under the character. So next, we're going to move into what are the locations in this world that we need to know about. So actually, you know what? We're not going to do the locations just yet. We're going to swap over to the lore because that's a good amount of what is in there. So we don't actually have any objects or items yet. More than likely, those will be at the book level unless there's some specific. I try to avoid prophecies and artifacts like the plague because they are just so rampant. Specifically when it comes to using the LLMs, like they always want to throw a prophecy in. And I already told it, it's like, do not add a prophecy. We will have artifacts though because of the postal service. So we will probably add that at the book level, maybe while we are doing our plotting. I don't know yet. But we'll go to the lore and then we'll probably do the locations. So let's go on here. Okay. Let's begin creating book Bible entries. And I use the word book Bible versus codex because not all the LLMs know what a codex entry is. Not all of them are 100% clear on what Novelcrafter is. I will say 4.5, GPT 4.5 does know what Novelcrafter is, and it is actually quite good at writing Novelcrafter prompts with, as long as you give it an example. So let's begin by creating book Bible entries for the lore in the world report that an AI writing assistant could use to help me write the prose. Before we get started, which entries will I need to write? I'm doing this specifically before we get started. I might be able to do them in batches versus trying to do them all at one time and then end up with like really, really short entries. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I hope that is helpful. Yes, they don't know what a codex entry is. So either you have to explain that a codex entry is a book Bible like entry and it's the same thing. Or you have to be like uber clear that you're in Novelcrafter. Okay. I also like to be very specific that I'm working with an AI assistant. The AI assistant isn't doing all the work. However, I want to write it in a manner or create the entries in a manner that the AI can parse the information and understand it quickly. And it also makes sure that it's not too long. Okay, so essential book Bible entries for Dead and Delivered. So the veil, ley lines, the Codex of Magical Conduct. So we actually have a codex in the story, but it's a codex as far as law about how people act. So we've got our species entries, and this is actually not enough. We need more. The organizations and the factions. So that's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. And yes, I added a troll motorcycle club, and they're called the Gravel Nash MC. Both the Nocturne League, which is the underground anti-corporate vampires, and the Gravel Nash MC are going to be potential allies for Charlie in her investigation in future books. Setting specific elements, so the supernatural geography, that's good. Magical technology and services, so like blood box, enchanted words, okay, yes. Supernatural investigation methods, yes, that's important. Dead letter office, Charlie's transformation incident, yes. And ley line siphoning conspiracy. Okay, so yes, all of these are good, but there are more that we need. However, I think it will take way too long for me to go through and add every species that we need and go back through all of the documentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this section by section, and we're going to ask it to go ahead and create the entries. And then there's definitely not enough time for me to create the whole thing on the video with you guys today. So what I'll do is I'll finish creating the codex entries on my own. And then hopefully, if there is enough time, I will create a series codex, kind of like I do the sample codexes. And then you guys will be able to download it and look at them. The only problem is there is no importing of codex into yours. So you'll actually have to copy and paste it from, I usually give these out in Notion. So unfortunately, you'll have to go through Notion and create your own. But at least you'll be able to see what I've created so far. And so any of you guys that want to write within this series, within this world, have at it. I'm very interested to see what you guys come up with. Okay. So let's start with the foundation entries. Please give me a book Bible entry for each one. Okay, Kat, when you do the entry for Charlie, will you use those new attributes at the bottom of the entry? I'm still figuring them out. Possibly. I'm going to take what I know about Charlie and what the LLM provided me, and I'm going to kind of merge that information make some decisions as far as oh, hold on. I'll come back to that. Okay. So our foundation entries, so we've got the veil. So it gave us a definition, the components. So this isn't the actual physical veil. This is a don't they call it like the masquerade or something like that? I think sometimes. But it's the way that these supernaturals keep the humans from finding out that the supernatural world exists and that they are among us and that they're doing their own thing. So we've got memory wipes, magical misdirection, cover story teams, and physical cleanup crews. The standard covered stories are gas leaks, electrical malfunctions, rare medical conditions, internet hoaxes, and urban legends. I guess we could go onto the Google and find out. How humans react. So they rationalize it away. The people who resist the rationalization are have their memory modified. So they may have intensive memory restructuring if they are exposed too many times. And some of the parahumans naturally resist the veil effects, so they might be recruited. Veil breaches. Okay, so this is actually new. I never came up with this. So rated on a scale from level 1 to level 5. They trigger response protocols, and severe breaches may require magical quarantine of an entire area. So this reminds me, there is a book that had, I'm trying to remember the author's name, but I can't for some reason off the top of my head. But there was an incident, and so they had the entire area magically cordoned off, and so it obscured, you couldn't see it. It was really cool. I'll try to remember what the book was, but it was magical realism. Okay, now prose guidance. Describe humans actively. I don't know if I would keep this. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think this prose guidance section would be very helpful right now. We more or less need to know the deets so that we can build the plot. So ley lines, what are they? What's the definition? Physical manifestations, geography, magical properties. I also need to add in here the other cities that have the ley line nexus points. So I think there was Houston, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, maybe Seattle. Magical properties, disruptions to the ley lines. And then, yeah, I'll probably get rid of that prose guidance section. And then the Codex of Magical Conduct. So it's a magically binding legal document that governs all supernatural activity. So we've got the physical nature, key principles, enforcement mechanisms, notable regulations. Now, it doesn't say anything in here about the enforcers, because we also have enforcers that help to maintain the veil. I don't see. Oh, we do have arbiters as well, and that would be kind of like the legal branch. Or not the justice branch. There we go. So judgments by arbiters carry magical weight that compels compliance. So we got notable regulations. Also loopholes and interpretations. That's pretty interesting. So how do you get around it? So great. So that was the first section. of our list. We keep scrolling all the way back up. So the next section would be species entries. So let's do this. I'm okay with these just being in the lore, but with the species, I want to make those separate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a custom category. Right now, the only custom category I have is series info. So let me come over here to new, and I will just put in species. Because, like, for instance, it doesn't even include humans, I don't think, as a species. And they're kind of important. Here we go. Add them here. And then that's going to be either lore or other. I'll probably put it in lore, though. So anything that is tagged with species will go into the species category. And it will be colored green. And it's only things in this novel. I'm only working in this novel. I'm not working in the series. You can also add custom details that are associated with the species. I don't think I am at this time. I might, when I get to the books, add some custom details that are related to that. But for now, I think we're good. So let's see. So the vampires and the Vampire Corporation, shifters, witches and casters, ghosts of the dead. We also need trolls. That's what you meant, custom details? Yeah, those take a little bit of getting used to. But I think from where we are right now, so we are building the codex for the series. I don't really think that they're as important right now. When we get into the point where we're actually writing the story, they will become a lot more important. Yeah, I can actually I can walk you through that here in a second. Kat was asking, I'm not sure what their advantages or disadvantages are. So give me 1 second. So we have the vampires, the Vampire Corporation. I want to keep that separate, actually, because that's actually a organization. So I'm going to put that with that, the organizations. So I'm going to put vampires, shifters, witches. I want casters to be separate because they're different. Ghosts. I don't have any more dead. I put my foot down on zombies. Got parahumans. And you can't see, but I'm actually writing in a notepad entry, and I will transfer it in there in a second. I forget you guys can't see my entire screen, but my entire screen is so big, you wouldn't be able to see anything. Or read anything, I should say. We also need humans. And we need mythicals and gods and demigods. We'll put them together. Oh, and the Fae. The Fae are also in this world. And I think that's it. I think I added one more. Oh, trolls. I think in goblins too. Okay. Please give me species entries for the following species. And if you want to, and I shall actually do this, I will make it a bulleted list because I like order. Okay, so I'm gonna let it go ahead and get started on that. So let's talk about custom details. So that is something that came about over Christmas time, and I never got a chance to create any videos on it at large. So, what custom details are? eh, Actually, I probably should just show you. I do have a couple custom details that I like to use. So, let's let this run real quick, and I'll show you some of the ways that I use custom details, as well as ways to use custom details to make your life a little bit easier, maybe a little bit harder. I don't know. Okay. And we're using Claude 3.7, so it likes to go. So we're already at 1,400 words. Okay. I think goblins with okay. So yeah, 2,500 words here. We have got quite a bit to come through, and I will work on that myself. But let me go. Let's see. We will come here to the streaming siren, and let me show you. This is Mariella. She is my main character. So there's a lot of information that you can put in the description, but things that I used to create a separate codex entry for, such as the physical appearance, the way that people talk, or the way that people communicate. I used to have those as in the other category, and I would just connect them. The problem with that was that when I did that, um, I would have the codex information would go over to the LLM, and the information about their appearance or the way that they talked or whatever wasn't next to the character in whenever it sent the prompt. So the way that we dealt with that was that Space and the team created these custom codex details or custom details. So we've got, I've got the appearance here. I've got nonverbal communication style, and I also have the verbal communication style for these characters. I think all of them, even the fish, has nonverbal communication style. And there's quite a bit you can do. So if we were to go into write, and let's go, let me add a new act, and I'll add a new chapter. Let's say that I was going to continue this story. So let's go to write. And it took me back right where I didn't want to be. But that's okay. So let's say, for instance, you have a custom codex detail that is how the person is dressed. Okay. So at the start of the story, they might be wearing something. And then the next day in the next chapter, their clothes change. You want to change their clothes. Well, all you have to do is come down here and do a codex progression. So, and with a codex progression, you can actually choose, let's see. Did I do the wrong thing? I may have. I don't. Oh, here we go. So this is changing something on Mariella, and I can either choose to change her description, her appearance, her non-verbal communication style, her verbal communication style, and actually right now it's set to add. My other option is I can replace. So if that makes any sense. So I can take, let's say for instance, pretend that her appearance is actually her clothes. So I could just go in and replace her clothes. So now, at this point, her clothes change. So in 2 chapters later, when she puts on a different outfit, I could go in and replace her clothes again. You can also use, let's go in here. There are some defaults that you can do. So you can do the role in the story. So this could be your protagonist. You can mark it as your antagonist. You can do, murder victim number 1, murder victim number 2. So you can set all of those as the role in the story. You can also do this with backstory as well. So instead of having the backstory in that big description box, you can add it as a custom detail. And what's cool with backstory is if you start at one point and this character thinks one thing about their backstory and they're finding out new things as they go, you can still use that progression and add to their backstory as they learn things about themselves. This would also work with if you have them investigating a crime. They have a certain number of clues, and as they go through the story, they learn more clues. So you can actually do this with maybe, let's say, a subplot and use that as how you are tracking the different clues and the red herrings and whatnot as you go. Also built in here are fighting style, occupation, physical appearance, as well as their pronouns. So if you have anyone who goes by she, them, or anything like that, then you can mix it up with the pronouns here as well. And if you want to create them, completely from scratch, you have the option of doing a text. You also have what's called a line. And then you also have a drop down or a codex reference. So I like the codex reference because I can put all of the different types of characters, so the different races of my characters, and then I can assign each of my characters to a specific race. So for instance, I have human or a parahuman or a vampire parahuman mix. I can assign that with this codex reference. So that's just a little bit about how they work. I hope that was helpful. Progression was another thing I never figured out to use either. This is crazy helpful. Thanks. You are very welcome. I have barely even scratched the surface, honestly, myself. In codex progressions, I've been writing a lot of short stuff lately, but I know I will be using it on this project. And we will blender through it together. It'll be a good time. So I will open it up. We're running a little bit over. If anyone has any questions, otherwise I'm going to shut this down. And I will be working on this codex, because I don't think you guys want to sit here while I go through every individual thing. I will definitely 100% give you the prompts that I use. But yeah, I don't think you want to sit here while I do that. I will tell you, I spent 4.5 hours today working on the world. So yeah, it's like very, very super detailed. Okay. It looks like people are already dropping off. So I'm going to take that as there are no questions, and I'm going to wrap it up. Oh, you're very welcome, Jen. Thank you all for coming. And post comments if you have questions. Hopefully I will have a codex here for you guys to download soonish. If I can't get it done in a week, I might push out week 5. World building is a lot. That is absolutely. Gumbo, it's nice to see you again. Anyway, have an amazing week. And it is the weekend. Yes. I'll talk to you guys next time. Master Tamari, nice to see you again. Just Besha, good to see you again too. Nigel, good to see you. So yeah, I will see you guys next week. And unless I don't have the codex done yet, then maybe we'll just sit and I'll make more codex entries. Oh, thank you. I will try to feel better. Bye, guys. Happy writing.